Longhorn Nation. We're back.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Fire the Cannon. I'm Rocky.
And I'm Megan, and we are Fire the Cannon.
Good job. Welcome. Hey, girl. How's it going?
Oh, just living the dream over here. Started the new job today, so that's why we're kind of shifting our schedule around a little bit. I appreciate you working with me, figuring out my new life and my new hours. But yeah, it's good, man. It's first day at work. I feel like that kid at your first day of school where you're nervous to meet everybody. You don't really know what to expect.
Lay out your clothes last night for your new job?
I mean, I had a good idea. Listen, I am not a morning person by any stretch of the imagination. So the more I can be prepared and not have to overthink things in the morning, I just put my outfit on that I know I'm going to wear and just go with it. It saves me an extra, 10 minutes of freaking out, which is an extra 10 minutes I can sleep in the morning. So yeah, it was.
I would be awake all night, like so excited. It's kind of like the first day of school. You're going to see your new desk. You're going to see your new, lunchroom.
Yeah. It's all new campus. It was
congrats on your new job, which
Thanks.
Also means we have some changes with Fire the Cannon because you have a commute in the morning, a commute in the evening, and so you're going to be going full time, not from home, back in the office. So that's why we wanted to go ahead and go live tonight because we're recording anyway. Might as well get some interaction with some friends and chat it up a bit and kind of figure out what our schedule is going to be because we know this week is Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Normally we are live Thursday afternoons. So we'll go ahead and go live Wednesday night and record and have fun Wednesday night and get our Aggie hate all out there. Get ready for the biggest game apparently of the year, college football year, because these are the most expensive tickets of the year of any college football game, right?
Don't I know it?
$800 just to get in, over $1,000 average price, ticket price. So we'll talk about that towards the end. We'll catch up a minute and then we will do some quick notes about Texas football. We'll get into senior day. We'll get into Kentucky at Texas. What were our keys to a Texas or Kentucky win and how did those play out? Break down what we saw from the offense, what we loved about the defense. How bad were those refs?
We'll talk about the refs. I'm probably in the minority here.
Yeah. So we'll look at broader college football craziness from this weekend, right? We know all the upsets. Oklahoma upset Bama, A&M lost to Auburn. All but Florida, like we said, was going to beat Ole Miss.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah. All right. Then we have a few top stories, things we want to share, and then we'll get into a little bit of Aggie Hate Week, right? Just a little bit because Wednesday will really break down. They're already giving us bulletin board material, Megan. Can you believe these people?
God bless them. You love a zebra just can't change its stripes, man. I'm here for it. I appreciate the Aggies giving their contribution and making that early Christmas gift to Texas with that bulletin board material. So we'll definitely jump into that too a little bit later on in this show.
Losing in 4 overtimes.
Listen, I respect an Aggie's ability to bounce back. If anything, they are, they talk about battered Aggie syndrome all the time. They talk about, oh, this team is just, they're down on themselves, hadn't won a natty since 1939 in football. And I will give this credit to A&M, though.
Loyal.
Their fans keep coming back. They keep coming back for more, and they are loyal. And, their longest lines to get tickets and everything. So, credit where it's due, man. You can't keep an Aggie down, I suppose.
I love it. I love that sometimes, especially lately, we've seen when the rivalries, the big Thanksgiving rivalries have been split up and not the same. The student sections have been lacking. They go home to their family. There's no reason to stay in town if you're going to play Tech or TCU, right? But when you're playing the Aggies or Texas is coming to A&M, the student section will be packed. The alumni will be there. It's going to be something else. So just to catch up real quick, Megan, Richard and I sent Nadia off this morning to California. This is our little picture. Here she is loading up, get on the plane by herself.
There's our girl.
Yeah. She's playing in this TENS championship. There's teams from South Africa, played from all over the world, apparently, because she just made a good friend from somebody from the Netherlands. So I thought that's pretty cool. She's playing with the San Clemente Rugby Rhinos, which is pretty badass because their gear is badass with the rhino and the lime green. And Oh, it looks so good. So she's pretty excited. She's having a blast. She flew in early this morning, got there just in time for lunch, which is always nice. And she's made friends.
Right?
They had kicking practice with a South African national player, fly half, was running their kicking practice. So that's pretty
That's
cool.
crazy.
So she said
Yeah.
her kicks were on point today. So she's pretty excited. I'll go down on Friday.
You think?
I
Yeah.
know my mom, she needs a getaway. It's been a tough couple weeks. So my mom
Sure.
and I will fly there on Friday and watch her play on Saturday. And then in the final day of this 10-day tournament. So I'm pretty excited. And there's a link to stream the games, but I don't think they play the full game on Wednesday, but they'll play on Saturday. So we'll share the stream. So anybody wants to watch Nadia play rugby. So hopefully
That's
she
awesome.
that'd be fun.
And you said this is tens, right? So
this is tens. So it
yeah,
looks like this is 20-minute halves, maybe 30-minute halves. I'm not sure. I need to look at every tournament can be different, but there's 10 people on the field as opposed to 15s or 7s, right? And so normally that means in the scrum, you lose the 2 flankers and you lose a wing and a fullback, depending on what backline they play. So it's it's the best of both worlds. You get the speed and the space of 7s, but you get the physicality and the scrum and the the higher contact of 15s. So I like 10s. We don't get to play a lot of 10s in the US. It's not as popular here.
Right.
But yeah, it's a great thing when you get to a tournament and not everybody has 20 people. So play some 10s.
There you go. Yeah. Fuck it, we ball. I like it.
We ball. So she's in California, loving it, already making a ton of friends, and saw some people she knew, and even a young lady from Puerto Morelos is there who moved to California, and her coach in Puerto Morelos told her, "Hey, one of my girls is there." So she's got friends already.
I love it. I love it. All right. Well, we've got a lot to catch up on. Let's just jump right into what happened this weekend. A lot going on. Some news out today that I think fans, we're going to start a little bit low, but don't worry, Texas fans, we'll end up high. Start a little low, then we'll go high. So unfortunately, we did hear that Anthony Hill was snubbed for the butt kiss today, which is absolute hot garbage. Can we have this conversation for just a second? How are you going to snub Anthony Hill? And not just that, but Danny Stussman got in above Anthony Hill. Tell me, in what world does that make any kind of sense to you? Can your brain wrap itself around that? Because mine sure as hell can't.
Stutzman aside, and I have seen several people compare their stats side by side. Anthony Hill has a plethora of statistics in lots of different categories, and he's on a winning team with the best defense in the country. He's one of the best players on one of the best defenses in the country, and his statistics are mind-blowing and record-breaking even for Texas defense standards, and he's snubbed. But you know what? Not the good thing, but they pissed him off, right? Not that he's always a joyful kind of guy, but you want to make him. It's like the last time when they said, "Oh, well, the guy in the middle," or whatever they called him. When who is it that said that they looked past him or whatever? Not anymore. But anyway, hopefully he takes that pissed off anger into the game on Saturday. But he was co-defensive player of the week for the SEC. Local love, respect. But how do you not look at his numbers across the board and celebrate? At least put him in the conversation. He's absolutely in the conversation.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can think here that's playing against him is his age. Maybe they're thinking, he's so
young.
Right. Maybe they're figuring he'll be there at least one more year. Right.
That's not how it should be. Either you're one of the best linebackers in the country or you're not.
I don't disagree. I'm just grasping for straws here, trying to figure out what the possible reasoning could be to leave him out. And that's the only thing I really got. Again, there's a couple of guys on that list that I wouldn't have put on there, but they're seniors. They're older. They decided to come back. Maybe that factored into it. Well, so, whether it should or shouldn't, maybe it did factor into that. But yeah, it's hard to argue. It's hard to argue against Anthony Hill on there. So not really understanding the logic behind keeping him off that list, keeping him off the finalists, of course. And then another Longhorn scary moment in the NFL. We saw that Jatavian Sanders, who is just finding his groove with the Panthers, had a really scary land in the NFL. He out of bounds. He landed square on the top of his head. I mean, we've seen that trend of guys doing their celebrations up perfectly upright, but this was midair. He landed really awkwardly on the crown of his helmet, just kind of straight up and down, all of his body weight there, and kind of
Oh,
crumpled after
he's a
that. So
big guy too.
yeah, it turns out that he does have, he was dismissed from the hospital, sent to the hospital to be safe, but he was discharged from the hospital. And again, as you can see, reported had all movement in all of his extremities. So that's always a good thing. Of course,
Yeah.
now he's in that concussion protocol, and they are going to be keeping a close eye on him and monitoring, his head and how he's doing for the next few weeks. So
That is so
scary
scary.
moment. Scary moment. You know what that kind of reminded me of is you remember in the Texas Tech game a few years back with Bijan Robinson. Another moment where
When his neck bent like a
I mean,
yoga instructor.
well, and that was the thing. They said, it's really fortunate that Bijan does yoga, because he had that flexibility that a lot of players wouldn't have. Hell, I wouldn't have. That would have snapped my neck in half watching that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
that was that just gave me flashbacks of that moment with that really scary, landing on your head, that neck area. It's just always a scary thing to see. And then, just one more thing here that we do want to report. Texas commit Dia Bell suffered a pretty scary leg injury there. There was some speculation if it was a broken fibula, but it turns out those x-rays came back negative, as he's reporting himself. He appreciates everybody looking out for him. They've got his leg stabilized, and then that cold compress, like you can see. So that's another one that we're going to be keeping a close eye on, because he is a highly recruited quarterback for Texas. So wishing him all the best, wishing everybody a speedy recovery, and we'll see him back soon. I have no doubt.
Yes. And knowing that he's, the results are negative, we're still waiting for him if he's going to announce anything about what actually his injury is. But because the results and initial things are negative, I'd like to say something about his foot in this picture. It reminded me of the angle of the camera, and it's like from the foot up. It
reminded me of that Charlie Strong
finger, the Charlie Strong finger, and the Dia Bell foot are now like when I see one, I will see the other.
That's kind of Texas canon there, right?
But I hope he's back with his team soon, and you never know. We saw Lagway get carted off, and then the next week 2 weeks later he's playing.
So again, we want to wish them speedy recovery. So yes. All right, Rocky, let me ask you this. It was senior day. Did you keep your emotions in check?
Yeah, absolutely. I did. Mostly because I was kind of working a little bit. We have Mama B, Vernon Broughton's mama, Yolanda Broughton, Mama B. She's one of our good friends. So I was trying to record for her this, the thing. And then the Connors, I told them that I was trying to take pictures. And then of course, Hayden Connor was also a captain that day for the game. So I was trying to get lots of pictures and send them the stuff as it was going and make sure I captured the name. Like, you want to capture everybody matters, but we have a couple of families that we really love, and we really wanted to get video and photos of every angle for their senior days. So no, I wasn't like crying or anything, but I was more working and like thinking, trying to make sure I didn't miss anything.
Keeping yourself busy there. I definitely, we both were rocking our Connor jerseys for this last game at home. And I know that I was doing my best to keep it in check. I don't think I was too much of a mess, but there were certainly a few moments where that bottom lip probably quivered a little bit for me. I was, happy to see our guys, excited to see their next chapters and what they do moving forward. But it's always a bittersweet moment for that senior day at Texas. That's for sure.
The saddest part of senior day, I mean, it's sad because you want them to have a great day. It was a beautiful day. They got the W on senior day. You want all those things for them, but also it's the way they read the names coming out. It's like every starter. It feels like every starter on the team, and then there was some starters who could have walked for senior day but didn't, and we'll find out later, are they coming back, are they not? And then Michael Taff walked, even though he has another year of eligibility. So is he? I'm thinking, and he was a captain on Saturday. So am I thinking, is he going to put his, cast his net out to see what the NFL scouts have to say about him? But let's play this. This was the clip that the Texas football put together for senior day as the seniors walked out, the highlights of their walkouts. Anyway, that's pretty cool. Isn't
Yeah.
that amazing?
There's
They all
Benda.
keep coming. Benda
Ah.
and Collins, and here's Quinn. Just, I mean, so many great players there coming out, and in their last game at Texas, and Gunnar Helm, like just so much production. Jake Majors, we mentioned Hayden Connor. We could have a whole new offensive line next year, a whole new offensive line, like all five.
Well, it's possible. It's
and
possible.
the new quarterback.
Yeah.
And new receivers, whoever our transfer receivers are going to be next year.
Well, look, that's something that we should remind folks. Don't ever take any year for granted. We've got a lot of great talent coming in. There's no question. And Steve Sarkisian has got this team rolling, and the recruiting is going really well. But never take anything for granted, because the way that this turnover happens, and the way that we're now developing players, every year we're seeing some pretty incredible guys head off to the NFL now. So yeah, that's been my nagging in the back of my mind this year is, what are we going to do without this O line? So that's
Woo.
exactly. I have feelings about it. I'm not sure what those feelings are yet. I feel like got a little bit of nerves on that, but that's a problem I will fret about at the end of the year
After
versus right
we're
now.
celebrating January 20th.
There you go. There you go.
I mean, Texas has as good a shot of any of going all the way. And like we've said many times, it's going to depend how Quinn goes, the team will go, Sark says, how the QB goes. So let's dive into that game on Saturday. This is one that I think defied a little bit of how the quarterback goes, the team goes, because when Quinn got hurt in the second quarter, just a few minutes into the second quarter, the score was only 7-7. And the rest of the game, the entire team had to step up. The O-line was phenomenal. The entire team had to step up for this win. And yeah, let's dive into it. So Megan, we had going into this game last week, what were going to be our keys for a win? Talk about your three keys, the things that you said had to happen for Texas to get that win, and let us know what happened with that.
Yeah. So the first and foremost, I said the defense had to keep doing what the defense been doing. We know that a lot of this year, Texas's defense has been absolutely phenomenal and kept them in the game in quite a few instances. This was no different. I think this was another moment where Texas defense really stood up and shut down a lot of potential guys with some, that had big names with potential big plays. Texas defense once again did their job, limited the offense, the Kentucky offense. The defense limited them to just 7 points. So they did a great job there. Another key to the game that I had was Texas had to take care of the ball and come out positive in that turnover margin. I think that's a two-part answer for me. Did Texas take care of the ball? Not as much as we would like to see. Once again, we saw Blue. And look, man, I'm not going to harp on the kid. He's harder on himself than anybody else is. We saw him again at the press conference, holding that ball high and tight. So he's walking around campus all week this week, holding that ball high and tight. But again, the turnover margin was even with 2 turnovers each. That's something that I'm going to keep harping on. This is something that Texas has been fortunate enough, and the defense has been playing well enough to counter those turnovers. But you got to wonder, how long does that dam hold? How long does that turnover margin stay quiet and not have really big impacts on the game? I think there's a lot of potential here, especially going into next week, going into College Station, into Kyle Field, where we know it's going to be loud. It's going to be a crazy environment. Little things like turnovers turn into big things real fast.
Yeah.
Field position is going to matter. So that's something that I think Texas really needs to focus on. And then, my third thing just was a little simple. Perhaps I oversimplified it here, but just have fun playing football, man. We've talked about Quinn, and we've talked about his game, and something that I feel that I've seen is when he stops overthinking, and when he stops overanalyzing everything and going too deep, and he's being too hard on himself, he's a damn good football player, and he makes smart choices. He makes good throws. So that was something that I thought overall. We saw that injury with Quinn a little bit early. So that did affect the game. That did affect his game and his mobility and what he was able to do. But overall watching it, I think that the football team was out there just having a good time. You could see it with them, and they were rocking along. And to your point earlier on in this broadcast, when Quinn wasn't doing his best, when he's has that limited mobility with that questionable ankle, the guys stepped up. Everybody around him stepped up, and they
Yeah.
said, "Hey, nope, we got you three. We got you. We got you taken care of." So I thought that was a good thing overall. I think Texas executed pretty well. Again, with those turnovers being the one thing that I just, woo, that's worrying me. That's worrying me moving forward. And
It is.
I really hope that that's something Texas can get under control. Rocky, how about you? What were your keys to the game for a Texas win?
Yeah, you mentioned the turnovers. Texas did force 4 fumbles, but just couldn't get on any. They just didn't
Right.
bounce their way, right? So the opportunities were there. We saw Kentucky really, it seemed like one of their points of emphasis was to really try to get those short fields and go after those balls, go after those turnovers, and they were able to punch a couple out for Texas. So that is something, we saw in this press conference today. Jaden Blues walking around campus holding that football because it's his turn. All right. So my 3 keys to Texas win was to establish the run game. And hello, Texas run game, 251 yards rushing. Congrats, Trey Wisner, a game of his career against. Oh, they were the 54th best nationwide rush defense, but they were one of the best in the SEC defenses. I said take advantage of the short fields from the turnovers. Texas did that. Texas had interceptions, turned them into touchdowns. Texas was able to take advantage of short fields. And then the other one was to get their offense off the field. And let's see, they had on third downs, they were 2 for 12. So that's what I said. Get them off the field. That offense was 2 for 12. They had to bench their quarterback, and they went to a backup who moved the ball on him. They were ready for this guy, Boley or whatever. They weren't ready for him, but 2 for 12 on third downs, 2 for 3 on fourth downs. It was a bummer that they did get a couple of fourth downs, but overall they got them off the field. They needed to do, like we said, they held them to one score, one touchdown. The other score, of course, we saw Quinn give them the ball, but
That's all right.
That was a funky, weird, like, what just happened? And you
Yeah.
look on the field and we have players on the ground, everybody just like, because that. Anyway, so those were my keys to the Texas win. What did you say had to happen if Kentucky was going to come out with the upset on the road? 20 points off.
Yeah. Again, the turnover battle was a big piece here. Kentucky would really have to come out on top and win that field position battle as well. And for the most part, like you mentioned, Texas created some havoc. They caused the ball to get loose, but they didn't recover as often as we'd like. It was dead even in the turnover battle. So I'll call that a draw. Of course, Texas didn't take over and dominate there, but neither did Kentucky. So then the second thing I said was that Kentucky would have to get to Quinn. They would have to get after him, get in his head, put him on his butt a few times. I don't know that they were so successful with that. Like we said, the O-line had a really, really great game. That injury does change your perception of things a little bit. Quinn's few mistakes, was that because of his nagging injury on his foot? We've known that his footwork's been a little bit of a question these past few games. He has a tendency to go to one extreme or the other, either get happy feet or not move his feet at all. Did that play into it a little bit more with that injury? And then the third thing that I said Kentucky had to do to have success, to have any shot at beating Texas, was run the ball. And I think for the most part, Texas did a good job. Again, Kentucky was there. They ended up, let me tell you this, huge stats here, Rocky. Are you ready for this number?
I'm ready. Give me the big stats.
Kentucky had a total of 21 rushing yards.
I know. That's amazing.
So
can't
again,
do that on the road and win.
Exactly. And that's what I said. If Kentucky were to pull this upset, they would have to run the ball. They absolutely did not do that. Texas, once again, the defense showing up and showing out. There has been some questions in the past, right? We know that the cornerbacks are absolutely on lockdown. If there is a weakness in this defense, we could say, sometimes they give up some big runs, but that was not the case on Saturday. Texas did a great job shutting down the run, keeping that clock management fully on Texas's side.
Exactly.
How about you, Rocky? What were your keys for a Kentucky upset if it were to happen?
That's what I said. The first one would be time of possession. They had to establish a run game and work on that clock. Texas, 34 and a half minutes to Kentucky, 25 and a half minutes. So Texas with about 9 minutes more clock time. That wore on the Kentucky defense, especially late. Kentucky couldn't win the time of possession. I said they would have to pressure Quinn into those sacks. We saw him, like you just mentioned, the last few weeks. If you can bring the pressure, especially it turned out in this game to be a one-legged Quinn for most of the game, right? For the second, almost all of 3 quarters. And still, he was only sacked. There's only one sack on recorded sack. So that's fantastic. Like he was able to move the ball quickly or hand it off quickly or throw it away. He had a couple of good ones where he just threw it away, which was great. And then I said they would have to break tendencies and play a little fearless. I think what they did, I know they're an aggressive defense, but they really saw the opportunities from these running backs to punch the ball out. I think it's just as much as Quinn's becoming known for the pressure and scrambling a bit or getting frozen a bit with the pressure. The running backs, people are seeing that you can a little bit more than usual go for those, punch those balls out. And it was successful. There was one that, the thing was blue that had to dive on again for it to be a touchdown. There was another one that was lost. Like it was from a punt return lost. So there was opportunity to force these turnovers, and they did that. They did break tendency, but it wasn't enough at the end. So there you go. They didn't do the things they needed to do to win overall.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I think Texas showed up. Look, there's a lot of debate, right, about the Texas strength of schedule. Is this Texas team the real deal given who they're playing? And I'm going to default back to this answer. Listen, we play who we have. We set these schedules so early ahead of time. I'm sorry that Oklahoma is ass this year. That's not Texas's fault.
Right.
I'm sorry that teams that are supposed to be good in the SEC have faltered. That's not Texas's fault. Florida, we're looking at you, buddy. You got to get your stuff together. But what Texas has done at the end of the day is come in and win games. It's not always pretty. It's not always perfect. It's not always exactly how we think it should be scripted. But at the end of the day, KD, hey man, we appreciate you joining us. And just like our buddy Kevin Dunn says, we are 10-1 for the second straight year. Yeah, look, for those of us that are suffering from that UTSD over a decade plus of bad Texas football, Texas is 10-1, 2 years in a row. You can't be upset about that. That's a great place to be as a football program. That really shows the trajectory of where Texas is going and what they're doing. And hey, by the way, that one loss that we have, admittedly, was an ugly loss. But if Texas handles business, they have their opportunity to pay for a payback game against Georgia in the SEC championship, their first year in the SEC, man. How can you not love that? That's again, it hasn't been pretty at times. It hasn't been perfect all the time, but when you look at it, and at the end of the day, Texas is still fully in control of their own destiny. And that's not something this football team's been able to say over the past 10 years of playing. So I'm happy. I feel good. I'm not going to nitpick the little things. We'll talk about them. But at the end of the day, man, Texas is exactly where they need to be.
All right. Yeah, this is they've had the controversy about strength of schedule and is Texas schedule weak? They don't deserve to be number 10, number 3 in the country, all that stuff. But a lot of people are bringing out some pretty good numbers about, Texas has the most wins against bowl eligible teams and things like that. So, yeah, what are your thoughts on that, Megan?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great point. Look, you can sit here and cherry pick the stats that you want. Like I said, at the end of the day, Texas has on their schedule who they have on their schedule. They've gone in, they've beat the teams they're supposed to beat. Again, they got dog walked by the dogs, so there is some question there. But Texas has the opportunity to go into a very difficult Kyle Field game in College Station and beat the Aggies. The Aggies are going to come in limping a little bit. They're licking their wounds after that embarrassing loss, overtime loss to Auburn. Right. So there's going to be motivation there for the Aggies. Aggies win, they're in the SEC championship. Texas, I think the argument can be made. Texas is in the playoffs no matter what. So this game is really going to be about pride. It's going to be about SEC championship. Can Texas earn themselves that extra bye and the automatic bid into that final playing spot? So yeah, I'm gonna sit here and say I'm happy. I might not look it. I'm tired and I'm old, but damn, this tired old girl is happy because it has been a long ride to this point to see Texas performing at this level and for us to be in a position where we can fuss about the little things when we've got an injured quarterback, when we've got, guys that are dropping the ball a little bit more than we want them to. We're still coming out big wins. Texas is still performing and winning games that they should be.
All right. Well, you mentioned coming in limping. Here's the injury. Here's the play where Quinn probably got his ankle twisted up. Yeah. You can see here it was 11 minutes left in the second quarter. So just 20 minutes, 19, whatever minutes into the game. So for the next 41 minutes, Quinn was playing pretty much on one ankle. It was getting more and more swollen. He went in the tent. I'm sure they were taping it or doing all the things they have to do to get him through that hour. Okay, here, I have a couple of questions for you, Megan. Just a side note. Quinn went 20 for 31, 191 yards, 2 touchdowns. Most importantly, 0 interceptions. We see the improvement on throwing the ball away, taking the check down, or taking the sack, which is still gives you another down, right? That's fine. Cleaning up the turnovers, which were a problem a little bit earlier in the season. What do you think? Why do you think Sark ever thought about taking Quinn out when he was limping or do you think that senior day, no matter what, ride or die with Quinn, or do you think this was a great opportunity for the running backs and the O-line to just have to let's go have a culture win here?
I think at the end of the day, if the only way Quinn was coming out of that game is if Quinn came to coach and said, Coach, I can't finish this game. Coach, okay, my ankle hurts too much. I think this is a moment that Sark's been really, really clear about this. The team has been really, really clear about this. Quinn is their guy. And Quinn, frankly, is the best chance that Texas has for winning a national championship this year. He hasn't looked perfect. Again, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, all the haters, you shouldn't be saying anything. Oh, Quinn's played the perfect game every game. He hasn't. You'd be foolish to say that he has. Right. But he has had a deceptively good season. You look at his stats. Again, he's thrown for in his career at Texas, thrown for over 7,500 yards. Increase that again with these latest stats here. He's had good games, even when we watch him and go, man, this doesn't look perfect. This doesn't look great. At the end of the day, his stats are there. He's still completing passes. He's still making throws. He's still getting this team to perform and leading this team and making the play calls and working well with his coaches in order for Texas to be successful. So would it be nice to have, the most beautiful throws every single time, to never have a dropped ball, to never have an overthrown ball? Of course, that would be great, but that's not reality. Again, when you look at the body of work that he has presented Texas and that he has given to us, you're looking at a Texas team that is once again 10-1. Is once again, his stats are up there. I mean, he's got good numbers, and if you took his name off of it, I think a lot of people will go, "Damn, that's a pretty good quarterback." So I think there's a little bit of bias here where people tend to be harder on the Texas quarterback than quarterbacks at other programs might get. Now,
there's a high standard, and there should be, right? The standard is the standard. You have to, you're going to compare to some of the most prolific quarterbacks, winningest quarterbacks, championship winning quarterbacks in college football history, right? So don't come to Texas if you don't want to be held to that standard. So I have no problem with being held to a really high standard. But also people, I think sometimes if you take the same stat sheet that he had and compare it to another quarterback, it'd be like, dang, he balled out. Like, the numbers are good. 0 INTs. I bet Jackson Dart or whatever, I bet he wished he had 0 INTs because he could have won on the road at Florida, but couldn't get it done because the INTs. Like that, controlling the not, game manager, is it an insult? Is it not? But managing the game, holding on to the ball, not caring about it, not turning it over. Those are huge things, especially this time of year and especially going on the road this Saturday.
Rocky, listen, if game manager is an insult, but you walk away with a national championship, who gives a shit? Call me a game
Right?
manager all day. I will manage the heck out of that game. And I don't care. I'm gonna walk away with the hardware. So yeah, look, I think you're absolutely right. There is a high standard for the quarterback play at the University of Texas. There's no question there. But I would still argue you erase that name, you put a little black piece of tape over that name, and you can't see that it's Quinn Ewers. You look at his stats and go, damn, that dude's pretty good. Who knew?
All right. We have a special guest in just a second. When he's all set, he'll give us the horns up and we'll add him in. All right. So let's talk other people that were really productive. Got to mention Gunnar Helm, 5 yards, 5 catches, 51 yards, 2 touchdowns. Fantastic. Especially the one where he stared down that guy that tried to give him a little bump at the end. Woo, I love that so much. But of course, the player of the game on offense that really just put the game on his shoulders. Take into account that the running game this year has really struggled with injury and then hasn't been the most winning, consistent running game. For this young player, we talked about Quintravian Wisner over and over, 26 carries, 158 rushing yards, 1 TD. Most importantly, no fumbles. All right, the one-stop horns shared this tweet. But with Baxter down and then the depth of Christian Clark before season, losing those, and then the injuries, hobbled at some point Gibson, hobbled at some point Blue, hobbled at some point Wisner. And here he is when it matters most, when they need the momentum of a run game the most, he comes through big time. What were your thoughts watching Wisner take over that game?
Man, I felt like a proud mama watching him go. We've talked about him on Fire the Cannon for ever since he's been at Texas. We've been excited to see him. We've seen the work ethic that he has and the work that he's put in. He has been that guy that's been very patient, the next man up mentality, doing what he needs to do, starting off on special teams, being really successful there, putting in the work, waiting, playing that backup role. I love seeing Quintravian have it. It's hard for me not to call him Trey. I'm trying, Mama. I'm trying to call him Quintravian. But it's great to see him come in this year and have a lot of success. He's really proven that he can be a guy that they can lean on, that they can trust. He's got those sure hands. And let's talk about that last drive, shall we? Again, this was almost a 9-minute drive that Texas went on to eat up clock at the end of this game. They ran it. How many times, Rocky? How many times they run that ball?
15 plays at the end. I think they were all 14 of them were runs, or all of them were runs. I have to go.
All of them were runs. There was 0 passes on that last one. And he was absolutely a key to that. Let's watch it right here.
I think that this was a 3rd down when they needed this drive to finish out this, just right up the middle, just physicality, toughness, right up the middle. I had to catch this when they were finally coming across in front of me, but wow.
Oh. And for me, this is something that, once again, Quintravian's just proven that when the stakes are high and you got to rely on somebody and you've got to get the yardage and you've got to be there, he will step up. He will take the punishment. He will do everything he can to get those yards. I thought this was a really big statement game for him. And I would argue, look, I love Jaden Blue, and I think he is an incredible running back. And
we need them all. Yes.
The combination of the two certainly is helping Texas. But I would argue at this point, I think I would call Wisner our RB1 right now. I think he's the guy that's just really proven time and time again that he's going to be there and he's going to keep fighting for everything. So yeah, I thought this was a wonderful moment for him. Maybe his coming out party officially on senior day, as we know that that roster is going to be changing for sure.
Oh, what a performance. So here's the question though. I know he was fantastic up the middle. They used him in all kinds of ways, and the offensive line was fantastic, especially when Kentucky knew Texas was going to run the ball. They knew
That's
it.
The key.
They saw Quinn hobbled. They saw the handoff over and over and over. And what did he do? He just kept moving forward. Here's my question, though, about the play calling. That was fantastic play calling. They used every way you can run the ball. They ran it down their throats in those last 6-7 minutes. But what do you think about like it's getting to be kind of predictable? Like while Wisner had fantastic rush yards, he had 2 catches for -9 yards, -9 yards. Do you think that those early play calls are starting to be a little too predictable, or go with it and then just take the loss and play another down?
My thought on it is, look, I don't, kind of like I said earlier with, I don't care if you think it's predictable. If it's working, keep doing it.
2 catches, -9 yards.
But the running part, I mean, you could offset that. And again, Texas is once more got this embarrassment of riches. There are still opportunities. It's not like your running back. We're not in a position that your running back has to be your leading catcher either. So I'm not concerned that there were a couple plays that they read well and didn't go well for Wisner. Again, at the end of the day, he had an insane. What were his final stats, Rocky? Do you have those in front of you right now?
Oh yeah, we just had them. 156 yards, 1 touchdown, 20 something carries. Yeah.
Are 2 plays where he didn't catch the ball or lost a little bit of yardage catching the ball going to piss me off when you end up with stats like that? No. Again, I think it's fine. I don't mind start going in there and mixing it up a little bit and trying to change things up. At the end of the day, Quintrevious Wisner did exactly what he needed to do. He got the yardage, and I love me some football where you can straight up go up to somebody and say, "Hey, you know what I'm going to do? I dare you to stop me."
Run it again.
And when they
again.
still can't stop you, man, I love that. I love that.
And to finish the game with that kind of authority and leave Kentucky with very little time. All right, we have a special guest, our friend Kevin Nunn. Welcome,
hey, KD.
How
you doing, my friend?
I'm doing it
We've
from
been
the
talking
phone.
about getting you on, and it just worked out.
I always watch y'all. I love y'all, but I was coming home and had it on the phone and like, oh my God, like you guys are giving all this stuff. I'm like, I want to talk about this. So,
yeah, come on.
Yeah,
come
so
on.
I'm on the
what
phone.
What were your thoughts of what we were talking about?
I'm on the phone, so it's gonna look weird, but you guys have nailed a lot of stuff and kind of what's going on in the UT world. But getting back to Megan's point, the UT world, this is so much better than it was the last 13 years beyond last year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we're actually kind of in the fight right now, and we're in the rich neighborhood, which we weren't forever. So it's pretty cool to actually be here.
Absolutely.
You saw the stat about Darrell K. Royal, Mac Brown, Sarkisian, back-to-back 10-win seasons. But I love today when Sark was asked about, having 10-win seasons, and his response was, "I didn't come here to win 10 games. I came here to win championships."
Yeah.
What are your thoughts about that comment? Said it with his chest. He came here to win championships. What are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, because I had a friend text me 3 days ago and say, hey, Sark said this about like calm down the expectations. And I think there's kind of a little bit of that maybe in Quinn related, but also like, hey, like don't go from rags to riches and all of a sudden be the new money in the neighborhood who's the real asshole,
Sure.
But I think the flip of that today was also like, we're not here to compete for second or third place trophies. So, but Megan's exactly right. If UT doesn't get blown out by A&M, then they're going to be in. And at that point, you're all good. Don't get blown out, because who knows at that point with the new 12-team playoff and how it's structured, how it's going to play out. But yeah, I mean, it could be, UT could lose to A&M, get in there, and be all good. And A&M could beat UT and then lose to Georgia and not get in.
That's
so,
absolutely.
I mean, I hate
they
to
have to win
downplay
both.
this game, because this game to me, I've shown you the picture in 1984, me at 6 years old, and at Thanksgiving, and you guys laugh, and I'm like crying, and everyone's like, hey, happy Thanksgiving. I'm like, there's no happy Thanksgiving.
There's no happy in this Thanksgiving.
There's no happy at all.
There's no happy.
So this game means a lot to me. And growing up in Austin in the 80s, they were kicking the shit out of us, dude. So
well, they were cheating a lot too, but there is that small caveat. Tell me I'm wrong.
How dare you?
How dare I, madam? Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you.
Oh, go ahead, Megan. Go ahead.
Let me ask you this, Katie. We had a good question in the comments here. How concerned are you with Quinn's ankle looking forward into A&M, is this a concern that Texas should be high alert? Like what DEFCON are we at worried about that ankle going into A&M?
Very. You guys know I've been doing a rehab and I've actually put some weight on. You can probably see since like I tore up my ankle twice and never rehabbed it well, and it's been a serious issue. So a guy at that level, playing that sport, I can only imagine how tender that is and how important that is for him. But I was tweeting with people earlier that, they told Jordan Travis to Rodemeyer or Roadmaker deal compared to Quinn to Arch. I'm okay if we go with our backup. I want Quinn to be there. I want Quinn to start and be there, but two different deals. So if we have to go with Arch, let's go.
Yeah, I've seen that FSU argument come up before, right? Oh, if
it's
Quinn
a lazy argument, man.
It is a lazy argument. Thank you so
lazy.
much. Because completely different situations, and we all saw that last year. Other than
4
maybe Danny
teams
Cannell
versus 12, and we've seen Arch.
Right. The backup is Arch Manning. It's not like, and not just is the backup Arch Manning, but he had significant, meaningful playing time this year as well.
With
wins. Right. So yeah. I think I agree, Katie. It's a totally lazy argument when people say, well, FSU was booted last year because their quarterback was out. Yeah, that's not the same thing. You're comparing apples to kumquats at that point. Like that's just not even in the same ballpark. So yeah, I agree with that 100%.
All
right, so go ahead, Katie.
Hey, it's a good word. It's a good word. Come on.
Kumquats.
Kind of dirty, but really not. It's
like whenever we think someone's a jerk, we call them a pepino, which is a cucumber. Anyway, so we were just talking about this massive 15 play drive to end the game. Really a statement by the offensive line, a statement by the running backs. Like everybody should just come in and say, we got you, Quinn. We got this game. They all knew the situation that he was hobbling and very limited. And so a lot of the players were asked about this, about that statement drive and Quintravian Wisner, like really putting the team on his back. And Jeff Jones had this fantastic interview with some of the players. We'll play it for you so you can see. I added it
Matthew, we saw that 8-minute, 15-second drive in the fourth quarter. What kind of message did the offense send on that drive?
Just knowing that we gotta come out there and execute on the drive, so we can put the game on ice, So just knowing that we gotta execute that play or whatever play was called to go out there and win the game.
15 straight runs. Coach called it a culture attitude drive. What kind of attitude were you guys trying to show?
And obviously, our offensive line going out there working, and Trey Wisner going out there toting the rock 15 times in a row. He was out there tired, but I give props to our O-line and our running backs, obviously. So we did what we needed to do, and I'm proud for this team.
Sark said Trey is as tough as a Brillo pad. That was his quote. Yeah. Give me an example of Trey's toughness. Who is Trey?
Man, Trey a dog. I think that's that Dallas in him, man. He a real dog, He come in and work each and every week. So we appreciate having a back like that, man.
And you started the game as hot as could be. I think you had 3 catches for 57 yards in that first drive. What does it mean to start a game on that kind of note?
Yeah, just starting the game off, obviously executing them type of plays, to get Quinn hot, and then just going out there knowing that, whenever the ball come my way, I'm going to catch it, and then leaving the rest up to the offense, So
win and you go to the champion.
All right. I think that was kind of cool the way he said, I had to catch it to get Quinn hot. Right. They know that they all have a role. Like they have to help each other get through this. All right. Let's hear quickly. He talked about Sark calling him the Brillo pad and the toughness. This is what Sark had to say about Quinn.
So Rocky, I couldn't hear that. It said tap for sound. Is that for me or for y'all?
I think it's for you.
All right, of course. Probably.
All right. Hang on one sec.
I'm gonna brag on this guy for a minute. He might be the toughest guy on our team. He is cut from, a Brillo pad. He is so tough. But at the same time he's tough, he's one of the best teammates on our team. and the respect he has in that locker room because of the work ethic he brings every day, the energy he brings every day, the ability to pick others up on our team every single day, all in the same time of him working on his craft. And he wasn't the most highly recruited guy in that class. He wasn't, on signing day, people weren't asking me questions about him, but all he does every day is come to work. And when opportunities presented itself to him last year on special teams, all he did was run down on kickoff and try to hit something, and that's just the way he continued to play. And that's how he earned our trust, was his willingness to do the little things the right way, because it always mattered to him. And so when you get in a game like this, when you got to lean on somebody, you want to lean on the guy that you can really trust. And he's definitely earned that from us.
There it is. Thoughts?
Well, thoughts are tap on sound was on me. So
We'll teach you this technology one day or another, Katie.
shocking, Megan. Right? Shocking. But yeah, I mean, my thoughts are that the culture, and that word is so overused in my life following college sports, or sports in general, or life in general. Our family is a good culture. You're the Melendez brothers. No, you don't. It's not a great culture. But they really have changed that. Whether it's staff, or whether it's, Trey Wisner, they've really changed the whole thing. And I could tell that with my job at Morgan, dealing with these guys, that there's no bullshit. This is business. And they're treating this. It's funny because Alabama's having issues right now with the change, and guys are like, oh, we lost 3 games and the whole fan base is shitting on us. I may not play in that bowl game. Screw you.
What?
And UT, yeah. Oh, yeah. And UT has more of a Saban deal. We're going to come here to a great school, a great city. We're going to build connections, and we're going to treat this like you do an apprenticeship. There are people that get their MBA and go work for Goldman Sachs, and it sucks for 2 years, but it builds their life. And this doesn't suck. It's a really good environment. It's a family environment. It's a culture to develop, grow. I mean, Cam Williams is the best example for me. We signed Cam Williams, and Cam's from Duncanville, but Cam is a small.
I like that you put that in quotes, like he's not actually from Duncanville.
Say who we is, so people know who we signed.
He is. But when I think of Duncanville as a kid from 78 on here in Austin, I think of Westlake, or, I think of a big powerhouse program, a big, and Cam's just a real small town kind of kid, and small family kid, great family. And but this was a big transition for him.
Mm-hmm.
This wasn't Chris Owens from Duncanville, from Tulane, coming to UT. And it's like, oh yeah, I can deal with Austin. So I see kind of how they've taken everyone in from different backgrounds and everything, and they become a family. And that's a hard culture to build anywhere. And I got to be honest, I've seen it from the inside. They built it. All this year is not shocking to me.
Yeah. None of this is by mistake. This has all been by design. We've talked about that often. I think folks that listen to our show probably get tired of that word, but we're going to keep using it because it matters. I really do believe, and I agree with you, Katie. I think the word culture gets thrown around a lot. I think it gets overused a lot, but that's really truly what Sark came in with. And I think that's a big part of the reason that he got the job. It wasn't just about understanding that there were more issues to Texas football than X's and O's when he came in, but he had a plan on how to fix that. And it started not with, oh, we just have to make a few different play calls, or we just have to get a few key guys. It started with, we've got to get a baseline and a feel for exactly who's on the team and what the buy-in is from all of these guys. And if you're not completely bought in, that's okay. Best of luck somewhere else. Because Sark had a really great idea and a clear understanding and a clear path forward of what his team was going to look like, what his culture was going to be about, and you're either in or you're out. And
Yeah.
he's known exactly what his path forward and what the path forward for the Texas
Yeah.
Longhorns looks like under him. And I think that's what got him this job. I think that's, CDC saw that. I think Jay Hartzell understood that. The Board of Regents understood that. LTIF understood that. And that's really, and Sark has stuck to that from day one, even
Yeah.
when things were ugly, even after the 5-7, even after Texas fans were jawing to get rid of him after a year or two.
Like maybe before that, I mean, think about where Herman was. And look, I'm not playing any side here because it's generational, it's racial, it's beyond that. Like the whole Eyes to Texas deal. And he came in and was like, no, we're going to make this ours. And whether you don't, and you can have certain opinions on either side, which are fair. It's kind of like the political world now. It's like, it's okay, like, you can have different opinions and we can come together and hopefully
we can still have conversations. Yeah.
And hopefully, conversations. And maybe we don't meet together, but hopefully we do.
Might need some of this, but that's all right.
Ground. He solved all that like that.
Yeah. I mean, I love that you brought up the example of Alabama, because this is where I think Sark's tutelage under Saban really shows through. The Saban in Sark comes through here. This is how his program is going to be. It's going to be about culture. You're going to buy in. It's going to be the hard work. It's going to be and Jesse, I want to bring up your comment here, man. Working hard during practice will show during the game. Absolutely. And I think that's something that Saban, I mean, he was about it. You didn't F around in Saban's program. And I think Sark is bringing that same attitude. But I also think there is an element of family that plays into Sark's culture as well. And that's shown through. You see the guys, Rocky, like you were talking about earlier, when Quinn hurt his ankle, it was simply, the O-line picked him up. They said, that's all right. We got you, dog. This is on us. We got you. The running back stepped up. Eisner stepped up. That last drive, we're not going to throw the ball a single time, and we're going to take damn near 9 minutes off the clock. We got you, dog. Don't worry about it. And
15 plays with a hobbled quarterback.
Right.
And a really good defensive line, by the way.
Yeah.
Who knew you were running.
Yeah. That doesn't happen if you don't have that culture. So
right.
Katie, while you're here, we'd love to talk a little bit. We were wrapping up offense a little bit. Let's jump into defense. Let's talk about that defense and what they did. We know what the offense did. Let's bring this up. You mentioned Kentucky had a good defense, but Texas not so shabby either. Rocky, go ahead. Bring us into this.
Yeah. So this was an interesting stat. SEC Mike. Kentucky had 11 drives against Texas. Only 1 went for more than 39 yards and 7 went for less than 20 yards. That is stifling, dominating defense. You add in the fumbles, even if they couldn't recover them, they forced a few. You add in the interceptions, 2 critical key ones. Let's show Jelani McDonald's interception. The diving Superman catch.
Remember, Kentucky had a 6-point lead in the second half of that game against Georgia. Vandegrift, what an effort for the interception that time by McDonald. Jelani McDonald goes Superman, dives for it, and picks it off.
Jelani McDonald, this is incredible. They say DBs play DB because they don't have good hands and can't play receiver. Are you kidding me on that catch?
Wow. Good for him, because remember Derek Williams got injured. He had some playing time, but really stepped up in the rotation after Derek Williams' injury. And he's been making plays every week. And to be one of the highlight, like jaw-dropping, ESPN top 10 looking plays, just really shows that he's prepared. He's physically ready. He's just at the right spot, and he's giving so much effort. When Sark talks about grading effort before they grade anything, you have to put this play at the top. The effort and the commitment to get that and to help secure that, we're not letting them score on us. Drive. Oh, I loved it.
It felt like he was willing himself through the air, right?
Yeah.
He took the leap, and it didn't matter how long he needed to be in the air to catch the ball. He was catching the damn ball.
But it was also great point. But it's also understanding your coverage and your assignment. And I remember the first time in basketball, we're in middle school, and they had us play zone defense, right? 2-3 zone. And we all went to our spot, or this is my zone, this is my rectangle, and no one can. It's like, no. You have to have man principles still. You can't and he had, that was a zone with man principles, and he read it and used his instincts. I'll say this. I mean, for those 13 years I was talking about, from 2010 till 2022, 2023,
Yeah,
our ball,
21 was probably the last year.
Yeah. Our ball skills, UT's ball skills in the secondary, look like a blind kid who didn't have hearing, like Helen Keller as a kid. If you threw a ball,
Oh no!
grabbing stuff, and I'm just trying to stay
This is
alive.
Katie talking.
That's the kiss of death for ever having anybody that was.
Yeah.
KD stands for a kiss of death.
It does.
Is that too soon?
No,
Or-
no. It's
Yes.
I mean, you're not
we're
wrong.
fresh off her. How did she die?
Should I go Anne Frank, or should I? I mean,
No.
okay,
How are you getting worse with this? How are you getting worse? Jesus.
Anyway, so
Am I wrong?
they couldn't catch the ball. We get
Hold
the
on.
point.
Am I wrong?
No, we get what you're saying for sure.
Yeah,
Texas definitely had some questions, and there were talented players in the Texas secondary, no question. But to compare the two is certainly different. We were just talking about Ant Hill getting the snuff for the Butt Kiss Award, but he made it to the semifinalists, right? Look how many we've got. Jahdae Barron up for the Thorpe Award. We've got so many players.
That, probably.
He absolutely should.
And Anthony Hill should be a finalist. I don't care if it's a sophomore. Stop it.
Agreed. Yeah. Again, looking at this Texas team, not just on defense, but especially on defense, the talent is just at an all-time high. It is. We're talking. This has given me OG feeling, right? Like this is back in the early to mid 2000s feeling about this defense. And I really feel like things are headed the right direction for Texas. We were just looking at Jelani McDonald's interception, but let's talk about this right now. Longhorns have 17 interceptions on the season. Yep. 17 interceptions. When's the last time that we had a program, a defense with 17 interceptions?
It would have been a minute. Long time.
It's been a minute. Texas is tied for second in the country and leads the SEC in interceptions. Of course, Jahdae Barron and Andrew Makuba lead the way for Texas, both of them with 4 interceptions. These guys are just. Go ahead, Katie.
Go ahead, Megan. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I'm just saying that these guys they're playing their hearts out. They're impressive. And to your point, this is a talented secondary. This is a talented defense like we haven't seen in damn near a decade, if not longer, on the 40. So it's fun time. It's fun to watch.
It's fun to watch, but also let's remember, as UT fans, getting back to my point about being 10-1 for 2 straight years, or the Helen Keller thing. I apologize for any of the Keller family listening. Any of the Keller family listening, I respect her. She was a fucking genius. So but let's remember how bad it was. But also let's remember, I was on the radio, I think still then, when UT fans were calling for Pete Kwiatkowski's head.
Mm-hmm.
I'd watched him at Washington forever.
Pepperidge Farm remembers. I remember that too, my friend.
There you go.
Yeah, look.
I'm like, whoa. We've already been divorced 7 times. Let's go ahead and maybe see if this marriage works. Because everything was set up well. And Kwiatkowski got stuff together. I was totally wrong. And so, mea culpa to me. I had heard, but Terry Joseph from Notre Dame, from my people, not that good. And he didn't look good early on. Blake Gideon, Terry Joseph, Kwiatkowski, who's coordinating everything. Was it Jansen, the new Arizona DC? Linebacker coach with the new defensive line coach.
It's working.
A+, guys. Y'all are all working together. And maybe we found that right connection, because the secondary's been so much better. The defensive line, like the backups, Lole, even Sadir Mitchell comes in. the backup defensive ends. They're playing
Right.
Simmons and Hill on the edges on third down and long, or they'll play Anthony Hill in the middle as a spy or a Mike. We're cooking now. We're cooking with gas.
I like, Katie, that you're mentioning all these contributors, because if you look again at the stat line for this week, 19 different players have had a stat, registered a stat, and every week it's 20 or more. I mean, I think it's the first time it's hit 19 and like under 20, but still 20 players, 19, 20 or more players every week have significant playing time, are contributing in the rotation and affecting the game, getting the statistics, even if they don't record a tackle or a sack or whatever,
Right.
They're still contributing and they're effective. But to have such depth, that is going to play off huge when Texas gets into, if should Texas win on Saturday and gets into a championship game, that's another game. Gets into the the playoffs, that's another, more 2 or 3 or 4 more games. So they're going to need every rep that these players have earned over the last few months is going to pay huge dividends, because they're all getting real reps.
That's a great point, Rocky. And a good example of that is, who is the transfer we paid too much money for or wasn't producing enough? And I say, that as UT fans, or the, loud.
That
UT
guy.
fans.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Exactly. That guy. Well, Trey Moore isn't that bad after all, is he? And you can see him getting kind of used to the speed and didn't get a sack, Rocky, to your point, or didn't get like anything on the stat sheet
until it started coming.
Last couple games with the sacks, you could see him really getting ready to go. You could see it with Lole. We've got 2 Samoans on defense, which I love. So you know that.
We know you love the Samoans. I
know. It's a weird form of reverse discrimination, but I love the personnel, and I feel like it's more Kwiatkowski. It reminds me more of him at Washington, where you had 370-pound Samoan at defensive tackle, and this guy's out here running wide, and you're like, how's that guy at linebacker? And you're like, oh, that guy can play. And I feel like he's kind of put all of his components together, and he has the right coaching staff. And I can even see him on the sideline now when he's chewing on his gum or whatever. He's like, yeah, let's go. Yeah, you want to go? Let's go. You want to go big package, 3rd and 1? Let's go. You want to go 3rd and 14? And I put my dime out there, or radar package? Let's go.
Yeah, I think to your point, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Sarkisian clearly trusts in his guys. He's got his crew. He understands, and everybody's bought into the culture, right? And it's having that faith, having that understanding of what the game plan is, sticking to your guns, knowing that it's a good game plan, and knowing that it's going to take a little bit of time to develop. I think that's something that Texas fans, and maybe I've been too patient in the past. I was a person that said, let's give Charlie another year. Let's give Tom another year. Like, why do we keep cycling through coaches like underwear? I agree. We are on the right guy now. Sark was the right guy, but even Rocky and I went back and forth on this a little bit when Sark was here. So Rocky's demanding. She's a coach. She wants to see shit now. She wants to see it happen now. But just in general,
we don't. Yeah,
no, it's good. It's good.
The transition was tough. Yes,
the transition was tough, but that's something that I think that Texas fans lack a little bit sometimes, is the patience, right? But it's interesting finding that balance of like having the high standards, because you're right, Rocky, exactly like you said earlier, this is Texas. The standard is the standard, and we're not going to let that fall. But there does also have to be a little bit of grace there when you see the guy and you see all the things working. You just got to get those right pieces and the right cogs in place in order for things to move smoothly. And fortunately, I think Texas is finally in that position. And Katie, like you said, I mean, it's been, my God, seven coaching changes as far as head coaches and assistants and all kinds of stuff, right?
OCs, offensive
11 years. Whew.
And
probably more than 7
consistency we've had.
So hold on, Megan. You're telling me Latinas want stuff done right now?
That's crazy.
Rocky, come on.
She's
have
got
fun
high
with it.
standards.
I know you love Latinas.
She's
I'm not
got high
worried about it.
standards, which is why
I'm
it
not
never
worried
works
about it.
out for you.
Okay, so let's talk one more thing.
No,
Let's-
it hasn't.
We'll talk special teams real quick, and then we'll say what stood out to us most of the game, and then we'll move on to broader college football talk. So, special teams, Barian Brown came in as the best kick returner in the SEC. That was going to be one card they had to play. Their kick return game is much better than Texas' game. Texas was able to hold him the 4 punts to 70 yards total. A player that's accumulated over 1,000 yards in kick returns yardage already in his career. Texas held him to about 17, 18 yards of return average. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was great. I mean, getting back to the point, we talked about PK and kind of what they've done. Like, this defense is so, I mean, of everything that if you would have told me in July that is fact right now, I thought they'd be better. I didn't think they'd be the best defense in the country, statistically at least, with scoring, you know, like, and it's more eyeball. It was even early on, like the way you get back to Derek Williams or Jelani McDonald who comes in, the way they look and the way they're moving and the way they're acting and the way they're, holy shit, our second team would have started for us 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Like all of them, I think.
Yeah.
Certainly the secondary. And so they've gotten so much better defensively that the irony is you look at Sark and he's incredibly bright and creative. And the NFL guys love him. They're like, oh, Sark. I mean, like, give him an NFL job tomorrow. The defense
Don't
is
say
really.
that.
I talked to him, like, you know, we're gonna have to pay the bill and continue to. And we can't.
I'm
The
sure
fortunate
we
thing
can
is Texas can. Texas can.
But the irony is, this team is really a defensive team who can be very electric offensively and then go into lulls for one quarter.
Yeah,
Or-
but but I agree with you, Katie, but I'm going to fall back on the old adage that, defense wins championships, baby. And right now, Texas it is hard to argue against Texas's defense for sure.
You can't. I mean, I've watched a ton of college football. We'll get to it. And it shocked me every week just how good they are defensively.
Sure.
My dad is a nerd end guy. My dad's a nerd end guy. He watches all college football. He's retired. He's got nothing to do. He goes, they have the best defense in the country, don't they? I'm like, you said it, Dad, not me.
You could argue. All right, Katie, what stood out at this game? Just tying it up with a bow. When you walked away from this game after everything, what stood out, Texas versus Kentucky? What stood out the most to you about this game? What were you left with?
I mean, definitely, if you would have told me 3 to 4 years ago, and three of the guys on this line, I've dealt with, that if Texas could have, with a hobbled quarterback, you're not going to throw against a defensive line that maybe you have 2 or 3 to 4 guys who are playing the league, could run 15 times without any threat of throwing and shove it down your fucking throat for 822 and shove it in the end zone and ball game over, I would have laughed.
Yeah.
That's
slobber knocker football, man.
Tom Herman tried to do that, but this offensive line and physicality is different. I think Megan, to answer your question, it just kind of reinforces both lines are completely different for UT. And man, when you get into a ball gets tipped and a guy takes it back and, all these crazy things, if you dominate the line, you can deal with stuff like that and still win easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Rocky, how about you? Walking away from this game, what were your takeaways?
So my biggest thing is we had a friend come with us to the game, and he was a quarterback for a school in Missouri, college, and he's a high school coach now. And so we watched, kind of talked a lot through the game through his eyes, having played college ball. And the biggest thing he says, his first time at a Texas game, he's new to Texas, and the first that he said, they're so big and fast. They are so big and fast. Like to
Eyeball.
see it up close, like you see it on TV, but to see it up close, this level of football, like, you know, he played a different level of football in Missouri, but to come here and to say, oh my word, they're so physical and so fast, and everything is happening at lightning speed, and they're reading it and thinking and reacting, and just, this is the team that Sark needed to build, right? He talked in his press conference today about when they looked ahead at the rosters when he first got to Texas. They looked at the roster, saw what they needed to be and what they had, right? I'm kind of paraphrasing, but you know, he said they had to go get speed, size, power, strength, and physical people, you know, experienced players from, you know, like more into Dallas, he talked about, and open up the recruiting. We see him in Florida and Georgia getting the best out that he can from those areas. So that was one thing that really stood out, is this team is built to compete in the SEC. And I'm grateful that we didn't join the SEC his first year, because he would be fired by now, right? Like Elko's did pretty well for his first year in the SEC.
By the way, Rocky, that is a great point that no one should overlook.
Yeah, absolutely.
He had time to build, and he brought a staff with experience from the SEC and pro level experience. So I think it's been the right staff at the right time, and it took a minute, but wow, our team is built to compete against any other team in the country. And for a gap of time, it was not. It got to be too much skill or too much this or too much that. They're deep and fast and strong and smart everywhere. Yeah, everywhere. And you do that with culture, guys that love each other. I mean, that's tough to beat.
Yeah, I agree, Rocky. I love that point. I think that for a while there, I mean, we know that Herman was good at recruiting. I mean, his classes were highly ranked, but it's because, exactly like you said, those skill positions, you'd get the 5 stars at the skill positions, but your bread and butter, the guys that are really working the lines and making things possible for your skill positions, that recruiting just didn't turn out the way that we wanted to see it, and didn't develop the way that we wanted it to develop. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think the thing that I walked away from, and you guys, I feel like Pee Wee Herman in his playhouse, and this is the magic word once more, sorry for saying it again, it's culture. Culture, right? Like it's watching our guys come through. Exactly. Mookie rocking out before the game with his Jade for Thorpe shirt. You see at the end of the game with the seniors, you know, Hayden Connor and Jade Barron and everybody, Simmons, everybody lining up, getting together, taking their pictures together. You can tell that these guys, there is just a level of love there, and there's a level of respect for them, for each other there. That I hate to say this, but I feel like with past teams that Texas had seen, it started to become more about the name on the back than the name on the front.
Yeah.
Right. And now I think what Sark has really done has been able to build that culture it's about being Texas again. It's about repping for Texas. The name on the back will get taken care of when you love the name on the front. And I think that's really, that's what I walked away from with this game, is that, you know, these guys truly love each other, and they're out there playing hard for each other. And it's just a great thing to see.
Getting back to Saban, what Saban was able to tell these guys, and it's what the NFL, Major League Baseball was the worst at it when I was a kid. They've gotten to it now. The NBA turned into this, and hopefully they'll get out of it. Dude, you got to show me some stuff in college for multiple years, period. I'm not drafting a first trimester. So what Saban would always say is, worry about this. And if you worry about this, that, in the draft, we'll take care of itself.
It'll be all right. Yeah.
That's what Sark says too. The teamwork first, and the accolades and awards and all the things, they'll come.
Yeah. It'll come. Trust me.
All right. So CB, thanks. You're right. Kyle Flood is the longest tenured OC since Greg Davis, and PK is the longest tenured DC since Carl Reese. Yeah. And PK I think he is the best. Absolutely this year, one of the best, if not the best. But he did have some pretty elite talent to work with, so that helps a lot too. But he recruited that talent.
And by the way, Kyle Flood is the OC. I mean, he's obviously Sark is, and that's a title to give him more money, which he definitely deserves.
Yeah. And can let him leave his old school without all the contract restrictions, right? Like he has to leave for a better title usually.
Right. Yeah. But
Yeah.
what Kyle Flood has really done is transform the offensive line, which was the biggest issue with quarterback on campus. For the
Well, when you go 10 years getting maybe
about.
one drafted.
Yeah, I mean, so that's what Kyle Flood has done. Took him from Saban, and dude, take care of that guy, whatever he wants. Let's keep
Truly.
it's tough to get a really good offensive line coach, and they've got one, and that is everything. And PK on the flip. Good, great thing about PK. You think PK is going to leave at his age for a coaching job? Right?
Whew. I don't know. I don't want to jinx anything, bud. I don't want to jinx anything by answering that.
I would be.
All right.
I would be really surprised, and we can outpay it too.
Yeah, that is true. Texas has the stacks to be able to keep coordinators a little longer than other teams. I did want to point out, Katie, to support what you're saying. For those of you that have been listening to Fire the Cannon for several years, about 3 years ago, we had Tope Amade on talking about Kyle Flood. It was his first. He got 1 year with Coach Flood, and his improvement in that 1 year with Coach Flood. Literally, when he joined us on our show, and we were so very grateful for having him on. We should have him back. One of the things he said is, Texas fans, you got to be patient. Trust the process with this guy. I stuck around for because he went through 3 coaching changes. He saw 3 different coaches, and he came in and he said, Flood is the real deal. He's going to get this turned around. It's just going to take a little bit of time.
Yeah.
Trust the process. Trust in Coach Flood.
Yeah. Tope is one of those guys. I would love to have seen him with 4 years or 3 years. With
yes.
He's one of those guys I feel so bad for. I'm like, oh God.
Unsung hero for sticking around the program. Unsung hero for sticking around the program and really sticking with it afterwards. He's been a big advocate for Texas after that. So, all right. Well, we are going to move on to college football around there. Rocky, I don't know. I could be wrong, but it seems like there were some upsets this weekend. Is that?
Yeah, we'll get to those. Let's start with some college football, kind of Heisman talk, Heisman update. Katie, if you had a Heisman vote, who would your Heisman vote go to? I know a lot of people are loving Ashton Jeanty. They just said 3 running backs in college football history have 2,000 yards and 25 TDs through the first 11 games. Barry Sanders, Ricky Williams, Ashton Jeanty. That is just fantastic. Record-breaking,
elite company.
Right? Would you give the Heisman to Ashton, or is there somebody else you think is more deserving?
I mean, I think Ashton, I've watched him. I think he's phenomenal. I mean, he makes good cuts. He was even injured in the last game, and which they needed against Wyoming. They won 17-13. He came back in and made some good runs. You could tell he didn't have the same juice, but I mean, growing up, I mean, running backs always won it in my life, right? And then it went to quarterbacks and only quarterbacks, or maybe receivers. So I would love in 2024 to vote for a running back, but I don't have a vote for the Heisman because I know and watch too much college football.
Whoa, that's a shots fired, my friend. Shots fired here on Fire the Cannon.
Shots fired at Kirk Coles if he's still awake, but I'm kidding about Kirk. But most of these guys, women, are at a stadium in Boise, not watching college football all day. And losers like me sit there and watch from 11 till 1 a.m.
Me too.
And then rewatch it the next day after we taped everything. Which sucks for me. I got to get rid of all my food stuff. I've got 3 kitchens shows that I got to delete every Friday night.
Gotta make room for that college football, man. Gotta make room for the college football.
It's a tough first world world I live in. But with that said, Rocky, no. I mean, look, I would have voted for Orlando Pace in 1995. I would have voted for. There are a lot of weird votes. If we went through from my lifetime that I remember, I'll go 86 on. I've given you different votes.
Let's keep it with 2024.
The the best player in college football is Travis Hunter. Give me
Yeah.
the fucking Travis Hunter.
You're going to get your wish there with a wide receiver getting it, somebody other than a quarterback getting it.
Wide receiver and quarterback.
Do you think their record, now that they don't have the best record, that may or may not still be in contention for the Big 12 title, their math is crazy. Do you think that should have an effect on whether or not he's the most valuable player?
It's not the most valuable.
I know, but
the Heisman is the best player in college football. If you're on a 2-10 team and you're that big of a badass, I don't care.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Yeah, Rocky and I fight about this.
You're so amazing. You led your team to what?
Pardon?
I just think you should lead your team to some kind of greatness. Should be a factor in there.
Yeah. Daniel, she was upset with LSU because LSU didn't win a ton of games like she wanted to see.
Yeah, I still think Christian McCaffrey should have got it back in the day, but all right. Let's look at the new.
Like Rocky, like at that point, shouldn't we just wait till the end of the college football national championship?
Yes, or Vince Young would have one.
And whoever is the best player of those two teams, we pick, right?
No. But somebody that won enough. All right, let's look at the new AP Top 25. Anything crazy, shocking? Clemson's flying up. Bama dropped all the way down to 13 with their third loss. Oh, man. Aggies hanging on at 20. Colorado dropped to 23. Anything? Army finally got a loss, and they dropped to 25. Anything crazy? Go ahead.
I said go Irish.
They're up to number
shocking from you,
5.
Katie.
They lost to NIU. How does nobody care? How does nobody care that they lost to NIU at home?
I think we're seeing
because they whipped the shit out of everyone outside of that. Look, I'm not here to say. And look, Kevin Kelly done. My dad went to Notre Dame, UT first, but Notre Dame's always been very number 2 in my heart. I don't think they're great. I mean, honestly, there's not one team this year, and I felt this from week 1, who couldn't lose.
I agree.
There is no 2001 Miami who almost lost at Boston College. There is no 95 Nebraska who almost lost or then been 96 against Colorado. There is no team like that. Like it's 2005 Texas almost lost. There's no team like that. So anyone's beatable, and Notre Dame could beat a bunch of teams. Do I think they go through and run the whole table in even to get to the semis? Hell no.
All right.
Yeah, I do want to give a shout out though to Tulane making their appearance. That we've talked about the Green Wave, baby.
Number 18.
They're up on 18.
Are they really?
Number 18 and SMU making their appearance in the top 10 at number 9. Those are two programs that I think don't always get a lot of credit or a lot of attention. And I doubt half the people could tell you where Tulane actually is, but credit to them. Partying it up in New Orleans. Absolutely.
Learned recently. Look at South Carolina flying up to number 16. Could they maybe sort of find a way in the playoffs? Yeah. We'll see. No, I mean, just saying. Penn State, they're hanging on. That will sort itself out. Indiana, big loss to Ohio State. So let's go ahead and look at just really quick. I thought this was interesting. The power Texas Dave Campbell
with Penn State. James Franklin, I've been calling this forever. He is like John Cooper and what we thought Mac Brown may be. Man, 10 wins every year, can recruit, building a good program. You can't win the big one, though.
Tulane is the
CB, I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate the comment, CB. That's right. Every time an Aggie calls Texas TU, be like, "What do you care about Tulane?"
Yeah. All right. College Power Poll, according to Dave Campbell's Texas football. This is how they're ranking the universities in Texas that play college football. They have Texas at number 1. They have SMU above the Aggies. Ooh. There you go. Then Baylor, TCU, Sam Houston, Texas State. I mean, that all looks pretty fair. Anything that UTEP just went to Tennessee and lost by a lot.
The only thing when you look at, and we'll see. I mean, if A&M beats UT, I mean, you could say A&M's, one in the state, whatever, and that could definitely happen. I've been very impressed with SMU and kind of what they've done. I mean, there's obviously a lot of resources there. They gave up $200 million and 7 years of TV rights with the ACC to take that deal. You know, that's one of those, we'll pay triple HOA. We have the money. We want to be in the neighborhood.
Right. We'll leave the tacky statue up in the front because we can afford it.
All right.
We're SMU. We'll invite you over. We'll have cocaine parties and charge you for that. That'll be good.
Oh, no. All right. So let's fly through. I think the biggest game, there was a couple of huge upsets. Let's start with the one that affects us this week. Texas A&M went into Auburn. Last week, we had a couple of upsets. I picked this upset. I thought it was Auburn's time to win something at home.
Did too. Give me a high five. Give me a high five.
I also picked Florida over Ole Miss.
I did too. Give me a high five.
All right. So let's talk about that. Auburn went up quick, 21-0. At the end of regulation, it was 31-31. There was so much drama with the kickers and Auburn having a terrible kicker, but they survived kick after kick after kick at the end. They went to 4 overtimes, and it's so funny that all these new overtime rules are because of that Aggie LSU game that went 7 overtimes.
7 overtimes.
Yeah.
So in the overtimes, they got touchdowns, field goals, and then it went to 2-point conversions, and this happened.
Come up with the perfect play. Got Hunter split out as a wideout, at least for now. We'll see if he motions. He will come in the backfield alongside Thorne. And now sprints wide left. Thorne looking middle, and what a catch! Lambert Smith came down with it. Direct snap, pitch back, Reed rolls right, dropped! It was dropped! Auburn wins!
Oh my goodness. That game was on crack. It was crazy.
And look, I've seen a lot of people fuss about having to go for 2 and relying on 2 is silly. It's not silly because they get the same opportunities in my mind. Look, my heart goes out to A&M. That's a tough way to lose a game. I'm not arguing that.
Play call.
It was a perfect play call.
It was a great play call.
It was a perfect play call. And I'm going to keep saying this. I know Aggies don't believe me when I say that I've been supporting Elko. I think Elko is a great fit for Texas A&M. I think his staff is solid. I think they understand it. A&M, I had A&M pinned at a 7-5 team this year. They've exceeded expectations, in my opinion. That is a hard, they're still there. They're still there.
Are there Aggies not supporting him right now?
Oh, listen, they were calling for his head 3 games ago. They're all over the place. It depends on the day, depends on the weather, depends on the barometer, I suppose.
They pick on his clothes, they fat shame him. Yeah. We've seen it all.
Yeah, but
it
depends if he won that week or not.
A rotten culture from Sumlin and Jimbo.
That's exactly it.
I know him from Notre Dame. Trust me.
Yeah.
He was a DC. Elko is a great coach. They've got hard-nosed, defensive. They've got a young second trimester quarterback who's getting his feet up. He's like
Marcel Reed.
Get my point with PK and UT fans. So it's not just it's all fans.
Right. Take a breath, A&M, because you guys are that compared to where they were, the trajectory is going in the right direction for A&M. Rocky, to your point, that was a brilliant play call.
It was just a great play call.
Quite go their way.
The only thing I would have changed was putting in the hands of an actual receiver at the end instead of trusting a running back who had good hands, but putting a 4th overtime in the hands of a running back and not a true receiver is the only thing I would have changed about that. But the play call was brilliant.
Yeah.
My girl, when I looked at it, first thing I thought, it was a different play because this is a roll right. And this was obviously split the quarterback out, little reverse throwback flat route, which is, brilliant. But yeah, you got to get the right guy with the hands. And that was one of those, you could see it coming, and he's like, he's not
hit him in the face mask. Hit him right in the face.
Oh God, it's coming.
Was this not one of those sports movie calls where the guy that never catches the football, throw it to him. But he never catches the ball. He'll catch it this time, right?
He'll catch it. But
Okay.
it did remind me of Nebraska Miami in '83 when they're rolling right on the 2-point conversion. Osborne says, we're going for it. We're winning the national championship. We're not tying this thing in the Orange Bowl. And he had him open. And I think a Miami defender deflected it a little bit, but it still hit off his pads. And it's like, oh my God, it's right there. But this one was not deflected and was right there, and he couldn't squeeze it. Megan, I do disagree, though. We got to cut out the 2-point conversion.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it.
It's kind of like going to penalty kicks, but
there
just
has to be a better
have
way.
a couple good ones ready to go. But I mean, at this point, don't let it get to 4 overtimes, and we won't have to worry about it.
Okay, but like you're talking about, you're worried about 18 to 22-year-old with NIL, maybe 25-year-olds in BYU, but still, you're worried about their endurance and duration for 6 extra plays. Let's get the right conclusion. Let's not go to 2-point conversions. And by the way, Miami in '88, when they ran into Notre Dame, the 31-30 game, they had played Michigan the week before. They're down 30-14, and Steve Walsh and them had to run 2 2-point conversions. Most teams don't have that many 2-point conversions. Nobody.
Well, nowadays they know they need it.
So, what are you going to do?
Okay, so you remember last week when Elko made the Freudian slip?
They had to run it against Notre Dame and ran out of 2-point conversion.
Okay, we can't say Notre Dame anymore for the rest of the show. So remember when Elko last week made the statement that we're solely concentrating on Auburn.
Yeah.
They played this on this.
Maybe you were worried about it. I think our focus is single-handedly on Texas.
They shut it off when he said we're solely concentrated, worried about Texas, and they left it there. And I thought this was funny. You just lost to Texas. Auburn.
Wow.
So funny. People are hilarious. All right, let's keep moving through. Let's fly through the next games. We saw Alabama, huge loss again at Oklahoma.
Which everybody called and saw coming, right?
I gave you a high five on the.
Nobody saw that coming.
They stormed the field. We can have a debate another time about should a historic blue blood? No, they should never storm the field. No, they should never. For becoming bowl eligible, that's so embarrassing. Yeah.
No debate. They should not.
No, they should not. Okay, so Millroad, the amazing thing about the Oklahoma game, the defense won that game. They held Millroad 7 runs for 15 yards. That's fantastic, especially the last few weeks. We thought he was on fire. We thought Millroad would run all over Oklahoma. He did not. 3 interceptions, 0 for 2 on 4th downs. The defense absolutely dominated that game because Jackson Arnold only threw for 69 yards. So anyway, that game was a mess. Ole Miss went into Florida. Florida beat them 24-17. This was kind of similar to the Texas game where it was tied a little early, but then when they needed it the most, the defense really held up and turned a mess out of Ole Miss. Oh, Jackson Dart, what is he doing? He did throw for 323 yards, but when it mattered most, 2 drives in a row with interceptions to end the game. Florida defense, like we said, was going to come out for them.
Listen, it's hard. It's hard to bring squirrels on the road. So, Ole Miss is suffering when they can't bring their pet squirrels.
That's funny. They couldn't run the squirrel out to
couldn't run the squirrel route.
Which one surprised you more of those two? You said you called Florida for that upset too, Katie?
Yeah, and I would have taken Oklahoma with the line if someone put a gun to my head, but it was 13 and a half. But I would not have put any real money. And I certainly
not by 21 points. Whew.
But they did a good job. They actually they disguised a lot of pressures and kind of what they were doing defensively, and almost got fake blockers to that area, and then really shot the gap. Stutzman played well. They've got a good defense. We've talked about that, and so does Florida. A lot of these teams do. South Carolina. You don't want to run into them on the wrong day, especially if they're healthy. But the fact that more for me, Alabama defensively. They've been weird all year. They've been 3 down, 4 down. They're trying to figure out really what they are. And they just got gashed. And the fact they only scored 3 is shocking to me too. But
has DeBoer lost the team?
Pardon me?
Has DeBoer lost the team?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I haven't talked to Tyler, so I mean, last time I did, he hadn't. But you know, I think you got to remember this is you're taking over for the GOAT of modern day college football, and I think Kalen DeBoer is really talented. But there's like you talked about Stark or any of these coaches, there's going to be an adjustment period. The problem is the adjustment period for them is marrying J-Lo and being up to snuff right away. You know, you don't have that much wiggle room because the critics are going to be loud and quick. It's not where it needs to be.
So many retorts to that going on in my head. All right, Rocky.
All right, let's keep moving.
Loud and quick.
Let's keep moving. 14 BYU lost again to Arizona State. They were down early, but Arizona State was able to control time possession in that game, which is what you want to do against BYU. Great game plan. Scatabo, 147 yards, 3 touchdowns, huge. Retzlaff, whatever, the BYU quarterback, 2 interceptions, but still threw for over almost 350 yards. But those 2 INTs were enough. Colorado upset at Kansas. That was a surprise. Down early. Colorado, I think this is the difference in the game. Colorado, 43 yards rushing. Kansas, 333 yards rushing.
I mean, and Kansas has now beaten 3 teams in a row. So I called this one mainly because they've beaten 2 ranked teams in a row. And Jaden Daniels had really gotten going.
Daniels is definitely getting hot at the end of the season.
As a running back, you know Leipold's a good coach. You know, this is always weird, and bettors have issues with this. When you get into this time of the year, the number one thing I'm looking at is the IR. You know, who's injured, but also who's playing well, who's gotten better. So we talked about it, I think, the last podcast we did. I go, the key right now for UT at 4-0 or 5-0, get better. Just get better. Week to week, get a little bit better. It may not be totally linear, but don't do this. And Kansas is just getting better and better. So Colorado is a weird team. They've gotten better on both lines. Doesn't take much considering last year, but I would never put a bet on them. But Kansas, Big 12, I want to ask y'all, the Big 12, I mean, who do you take? Because ASU with Dillingham, they're playing as well as anyone right now.
Yeah. The Big 12 is weird. We've talked about this a little bit on the show. The Big 12, it's not always great football. But it's certainly entertaining football. You never know what's going to happen at any given game at any given week in the Big 12. It's always crazy. Rocky, it looks like we have a couple of other top 25 games that we want to touch base on real quick.
Yeah, I also want to say one more thing about the Kansas game. We talked about the difference in the rush yards. Do y'all know Kansas never punted in this game?
No.
Touchdown, field goal, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, end of game. Never punted in this game.
I mean, a board punter is a good punter, right?
And controlled time of possession, 40 minutes to 20 minutes.
Wow.
That's how you win a game.
I didn't.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Other games we were at the tailgate. Everybody was watching the tailgates. Ohio State dominated Indiana. Indiana started out strong, went right down the field on them, and then got pretty much nothing until way late. Ohio State 38, Indiana 15. Penn State survives on Minnesota. Our friend, he went to Minnesota that was with us at the game, and he was trying to row that boat from his seat at the DKR. It didn't happen. Penn State held on, but that's what good teams do. Still haven't beaten anybody great, but win, survive, and advance, and Penn State is doing it.
They could have won that with the fake punt. I watched that game even more than Colorado and Kansas, which I didn't know they didn't punt or did everything they did. I mean, I watched part of it, but I watched a lot of that. And Penn State it's very James Franklin and Penn State. Like, you are a 10-3 team who can't beat the top 10, and there you go. But Minnesota easily won that game.
At some point, we're going to have a conversation about, with all this strength of schedule stuff, at some point, we're going to have a conversation about the Big Ten being top heavy too.
Oh, without a doubt. No. No, I mean, they're very top heavy. And look, the SEC is not as top heavy in terms of, well, they got 3 teams that are the 3 best teams in college football, and we all know it. No, it's more, I got to go play South Carolina on the road, or Auburn, or Kentucky or Florida are coming here. And talent-wise, they've shown they could beat anyone in the country. Performance-wise, they have. And so the Big Ten is very, very top-heavy. Dolly Parton called and said, "Give me a reduction."
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You are so funny. All right. So let's move to a few top stories before we wrap up for the night. Just a couple of things. You're welcome to throw your thoughts in, Katie, on some top stories. The first one we have to talk about, because this is like massive, nothing but respect, historic run, finally came to an end. Dawn Staley's South Carolina Gamecocks women's basketball 43-game win streak, beat out by UCLA. Nothing but respect for a 43-game win streak with national championships in there. Like, wow. Congrats.
I remember her as a player, and she's been as great as she was as a player. She may be a better coach. And
yeah,
I mean, watching her teams play defensively the last couple of years and the way they get after it, like, very impressive. I mean, no one's ever going to touch Wooden's 88-game streak. I mean, but like with Dawn Staley, she's built a powerhouse and a dynasty.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Men's basketball, they won their tournament in New York this weekend. I was hoping that they would get the matchup against Tech the next night, but Tech didn't hold their end and they didn't win their game. So, but Texas, Rodney Terry was cooking a little something there.
Yeah, one thing I love about them, obviously Trey can flat out ball. He's all of 6'6", can get to his shots. He's the second best, or I say as a freshman, the second most advanced offensive player I've seen at UT outside of Kevin Durant, who at 18 came in here at 6'10", and I'm like, oh my God.
Crazy.
But Trey can get to different shots. I mean, he's got a lot of NBA moves in his game. The thing I love about him the most is that in both games, when they're coming out of timeouts to play defense with 2 minutes less, left to go, and it's a tight game, he wasn't the, hey, dog, I'm going to make $3 million here and then go make $40 million next year, and if we win, whatever. He was like, he looked like Don Knotts, whether it's Barney Fife or Mr. Furley with the bulged eyes coming out. Hey, we are doing this.
Yeah, it was intense.
You're dating yourself with Don Knotts.
I date myself every time I speak, Rocky. So I'm okay with that. But you know what I mean? Like, I mean, he looked like a 5th-year senior who's never going to play a basketball game again, saying, hey, like, we've got to do this defensively. So he's all in. I also like that the different guys that Terry's brought in, they look like grown men. They look more like Kelvin Sampson's Houston club than a bunch of young kids who are wiry or just trying to, not that UT was always that, but they look like grown-ass men.
I'm sorry. My cat is insisting on being in this picture right now.
Well,
This is Kevin. It's Kevin.
All right. Well, let's talk about the new hottest Longhorn, right? His name is, the hottest movie star Longhorn right now. The new Matthew McConaughey, the youngins, Matthew McConaughey is Glenn Powell. They had a look-alike contest for him at Austin Auditorium Shores to see if they could find somebody who looked like him. And this guy won. Tell me, do you think he is a ringer? This kid who moved to Austin a few years ago, Bronstein. And I went on Facebook because I'm a stalker that way. I went on Facebook and found his Facebook. And
this is dead on.
in this picture, he kind of looks like him. What do you think?
No, I mean that's pretty close. And
That's pretty good.
I haven't seen Top Gun yet, and you guys know
What?
I haven't seen a movie in the theater.
It's been out for 2 years, man.
It's been
Come
out
on.
for 2 years.
What are you
can watch
doing?
it on like Disney Plus or something.
Oh no! I'm sorry, I did see Top Gun. It was a great fucking movie.
Clearly, it left an impression on you.
It was amazing.
Yeah, no, it was awesome. It came out like in 1986, and it was.
No, the new
like,
Top Gun is the new 2 years old is so good. I think I saw it in the theater like 5 times. All right, let's move through because we've been here a minute. Jonathan Brooks, huge props to Jonathan Brooks.
And Charles, it's the NFL debut for rookie running back Jonathan Brooks out of Texas. Gets the call, Brooks carries it, and the first one is under his belt, 3-yard.
First NFL carry, finally, after about a year, a little over a year since that injury at TCU. Huge, big comeback, this big comeback story. Unfortunately, the game was overshadowed by Jatavian Sanders' injury, which we talked about at the beginning of the show. So, but congrats, John.
By the way, I didn't see that. How bad is that? Is that season?
No, well, they haven't said anything. They just said the latest report was all feeling in extremities and everything and released from the hospital. Yeah. So that's great news.
Hospital? What
released from a hospital same day.
Yeah, I guess they went to do all. Oh, what are you talking about, Brooks or Jatavian Sanders? No, Sanders was a head, neck, something. You know, the way he landed in his head. Another huge first, NFL first for a lifetime long.
Guys, this is their group.
Yeah, Coach Cowher talked about that on NFL Today. C.J. Stroud is going to be wrapped up and taken down, sacked by Tavondre Sweat.
So his first sack, they think his name is Sweet. It's
he fixed it quick. I hate that it was against my Texans.
Shocking the world. My Titans win into Houston and won a game.
Oh, I thought about you.
Oh,
Texans are one of those teams that they're right on the verge of putting everything together, but they still have some bonehead games left in them, I think.
Oh, yeah. And you have to be really bad to lose to the Titans. Because we're really bad. All right.
You know what's funny, though? Like, Sweat has been dominating the run game as a zero technique. They actually throw him out there 3 shade at times. He's been destroying it in the defensive line world. But the defensive line world, you know, you can have certain guys look at it and be like, oh, he's been amazing. Like, well, he's 7 tackles and no sacks. Like that game is different than just the stat, you know?
Absolutely.
All right. More news. G.J. Kinney, head coach at Texas State University, big extension, 7 years, could be worth about $2 million, which is huge money for that level of competition. This is pretty good because the atmosphere at the games now, the tailgating, the product on the field, the recruits, he's getting some higher recruits. All that's coming together for Texas State football. They blew it in their one big opportunity this year when they had the whole Thursday night world looking at them with Arizona State. It turns out Arizona State's actually a pretty dang good team, and they had them for a minute, but that's all right. All right. And Megan, your favorite guy.
Hey, by the way, you remember started here. He was the quarterback at UT, transferred to Tulsa.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the next guy we were moving to because he did start here as well. Go ahead.
Right. No. That's what I do. That's called the transition.
Big hair guy. They call him Angry Texas Fan. We call him Big Hair.
He's Big Hair. I don't know where Angry Texas Fan came from. I swear the Daily Texan wears me out sometimes with their headlines. He's Big Hair, man. Come on.
He's Big Hair, dude. Well, they made him look extra angry in this picture.
Natural furrowed brow, though. Like guys like that you see, and I had buddies like that. I'm like, you upset? He's like, no, this is the way I look.
Resting bitch RBF. Face exists for men too.
Yeah,
RBF can be anybody. So his name is Grant Walther, and he's using his newfound popularity to raise money for cancer research. How cool is that? So go look at the Daily Texan story for him and follow the links, and you can see about how he's helping UT Austin cancer research.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well done, young man. Because some people would not use it for all good things.
Yeah, I mean, no, he didn't start an OnlyFans account. I doubt he would have. But like, what starts your
everything goes off the rails for you?
Not off the rails. Like, I mean, do you want me to play by the playbook here?
No.
Are we in church, or like, are we in church?
Yes. No, we're not.
The church
All
of
right.
football.
So last wrap up, quick Aggie talk. Megan, it is hate week. I know you were talking about this early. Tell us about these ticket prices, Megan.
Outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. It is. I hope you guys have extra kidneys if you want to come to this game. It is the most expensive ticket in college football this year.
Or
absolutely out of
NFL.
control.
Or NFL.
Yeah, absolutely out of control to get in. But it is going to be a game for the ages. Absolutely going to be loud and crazy in College Station. Of course, we'll talk about this on our next episode. We are going to have a special episode on Wednesday so that we can enjoy our turkey and our pecan pie and our pumpkin pie I'll be enjoying the pumpkin pie on Thursday. But yeah, this is going to be crazy. A few things to note at A&M. Highest ticket price to get in for any game right now. Also, A&M has already announced that they have brought in large speakers that they tested out against New Mexico State to pump in music and pump in sound and amplify the band on the field level. They did that at New Mexico State, and they've already had a lot of Aggies complaining about it, actually, saying that the band sound, as you would expect, isn't synced up. The speakers aren't synced up with the actual band playing, so it distorts. It sounds crazy. Texas did this once. We never put the speakers on the field, but at some point Texas was amplifying the band sound, and I don't think it sounded good. I think they stopped doing that to clean it up. But I've got one thing to say. If you've got so much faith in A&M and Kyle Field being the hardest place to play, the loudest place to play, the craziest place to play, why you got to bring in speakers, man?
Let's bring
and
it.
To that point as well, Coach Stark mentioned this. Yeah, he kind of joked in the press conference, but it is against the rules for A&M to use those speakers after a certain point. So the band has to cut off, as soon as the center for the offense puts his hand on the ball, the band has to stop playing. The speakers have to stop being in use. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to push that at all and make that push that envelope, as I expect A&M to do a little bit. But we will definitely talk more about the Texas A&M game when we are on that special episode on Wednesday. We will release the timing. Rocky, do we have an idea what time we want to do that yet? Or
Wednesday evening, probably right around the same time, 8:30. Depending on your work schedule. We'll go all into hate week. We'll talk about all the bulletin board material that the Aggies have given Texas this week, saying Anthony Hill is nothing we haven't already seen, the line like that, or I feel sorry for the Longhorns coming into this atmosphere, whatever, they're giving Texas just the fuel, right? But they're also making themselves a little funny, like you mentioned the speakers just now, but also like the moving senior day from the night they play Texas, the biggest game in a decade, the biggest game of the year in college football, ticket prices and all that. And they're moved their senior day back to last weekend when they played, or the week before when they played New Mexico State. Why can't your seniors beat Texas on the home game? Why do you need speakers? Like, it's all lining up. It's so funny. Anyway.
I've been to a lot of games there, and if you doubled that highest ticket price, and paid that to me in cash, I wouldn't go.
All right. We have a couple of Thanksgiving notes. CB, thank you all year long, but especially happy Thanksgiving to you and your family. Dan Dewberry, thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate that. Quickly, what are your Thanksgiving plans, KD, and then Megan?
Just family. I mean, I've got dad here, mom in Taylor, aunt in Hutto, and I've got family in Dallas. So we're all trying to, typical family, divorce family. We all get along. We're just trying to. So I'll end up being at like 3 places on Thursday to answer your question.
Good. Megan?
Yeah, about the same. I'm gonna see the family early on. Probably pop over to my friend Stevie and Mia's place, say hi to their family, their friends, and then Rocky. We'll be enjoying our turkey a little bit later and having some drinks and hopefully enjoying some really good football on Thursday night.
Yep. Me sleeping in, cooking a small dinner. And yeah, Nadia's in California. It's just me and Richard, a few friends coming over.
I always
And
love a small dinner for Rocky. Rocky's
I
like,
know.
it's still a big meal. I'm not gonna lie.
It'll feed 47 people, but she's like,
Yeah,
it's a small
right.
dinner.
I'm,
Don't worry about it.
yeah.
I'm like, this.
Oh, CB is the first year I've cooked since 2019. My dad's like, oh. Well, I hope you have a wonderful meal and you talk great memories at dinner. That's what it's all about.
We
Celebrating. All right. Thanks for joining us, Katie. That was really cool that you hopped on with us tonight live.
You know, we've got a short week. So I was out with some investors and talking to them, and I'm coming back and I'm listening. I'm like, God, I miss them. I love them. I text, so don't worry about that. I'm at a
you are day one faux show.
Always.
I red light. I'm like texting y'all, and I'm like, Rocky, I'll be there. She's like, come on. I'm like, I'll be back. So like,
don't text and drive.
I do not.
I know. I'm just kidding. So. All right. Okay. We'll just say our goodbyes. Thank you, everyone who joined us last minute live. We'll let you know when we go live Wednesday evening for our Aggie Texas breakdown. We'll preview the game. Marcel Reed says it's playoff game because they know if they lose, they don't have a chance at the SEC or the playoffs. So we'll break it all down. I'm Rocky.
I'm Megan. And we've always enjoyed our time with Katie.
And you are?
I'm Katie.
You're Katie.
All right,
and we are Fire the Cannon.